Hello everybody! Today I'm going to be looking at the trailer for Pokemon Legacy's Arceus, and I'm going to be analyzing it. So please grab yourself a snack and chill out while I go over everything that I found in this trailer. I'm really excited for this game, and I just want to pick apart every little bit of it that I can and see what we can get out of it. I'll also be talking about a few leaks later, so I'll warn you guys before that happens because they might be real. But for those of you who want to stick around for that later, when I get to talking about that, I'll warn you, and then we can dive into talking about what those might imply and if they are real or not. That should lead for some fun discussion in my opinion, so without further ado, let's get started on analyzing the trailer itself. So first we start here with the book and the Pokeballs, and I want to start by saying that the book, someone pointed out that it might actually be this old-time version of the Pokedex. As we already know, the balls are old-timey. I'm sure you've all seen it by now. They're made out of wood. A lot of people have been wondering, like, if they're made out of wood, how do they capture Pokemon? How do they have that sort of effect, even though Pokeballs are supposed to be all mechanical, and that's why they're able to do it, because it's new technology. And I think it's because wood is something that can be used in spiritual rituals. Maybe there's some sort of spirituality behind catching a Pokemon, and the first renditions of the Pokeballs used that sort of spiritual power. Back on topic of the book, that could also be true for the book too, because I mean books are made from trees as well, which is wood. There might be some sort of way that this eventually gets translated into the technology we see today. That's just a theory, but it's an interesting one nonetheless, so I figured I'd point it out. Now, continuing with the trailer, we're obviously going to go inside of the book. And now here we start to see things being drawn. I'm going to come back to this fact later when we start seeing the Pokemon being drawn. Oh, well, look at that. So this is a great example already. So here, let me back that up a little bit. We see the Pokemon drawn, once that comes back out, drawn into the book, sketched there. This might be how we enter them into the book. So when we catch a new Pokemon and start making the Pokedex, I have a theory that we're going to be drawing the Pokemon into the books like this with artwork such as this. But just a singular Pokemon, obviously this is several different Pokemon. So that could be very interesting too. Again, just a theory, but it's something worth pointing out. Alright, now we're going to get into the beefy stuff. So we have Mount Coronet, and Mount Coronet is obviously, they've stated that it's supposed to be the center of the map. So every time we see Mount Coronet, we know that we're facing the center of the map. And keep that in mind for some shots that we're going to see later. Already here, we see a few things. First of all, these rock textures look like they're ripped straight from Breath of the Wild, which is not a bad thing at all. I'm very happy about that. We see a bridge over here, and we're going to end up seeing this bridge several times throughout the trailer, as well as water. And I've been keeping my eye out for islands this entire time, and right over here, we can see some sort of thing that might end up being an island. As you can see, that looks like there's a divide here from this land to this land, and even beyond that, it looks like a divide from this land to this land. This might be connected to the right somewhere though, but this obviously is not. So the fact that islands exist could imply that we have some way to go across the water, and I'm hoping, beyond hope, that going across the water will be done with Pokemon. Something that we will be talking about again later when it comes to the leaks that might imply that that's actually something we end up doing. So let's continue on for now. These trees, I just want to say, these trees look really pretty to me. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the style of trees. We'll see their bark a little closer later, and it's definitely bark ripped straight out of the Breath of the Wild as well, but it looks really good. Alright, so here we see some Piplup, and what is this? Oh, just trees. So here we see Piplup and some grass. First of all, I want to point out, I really love this grass style. It's very drawing, like Japanese drawing-esque. Here's some tree bark, which looks really good. I really like these textures, especially with the art style. Now, one thing I want to point out, this Piplup model as far as I can tell, does not look like the same model we've seen since 2012, you know, how we've had the same models being used and reused over and over again for every Pokemon game. I think this one is different, and both in its movement and its figure. I could be wrong about that. I haven't taken the time to compare them one-on-one, but I just want to say this and a few Pokemon models we'll see later kind of make me think that maybe they've redone a few things, and some animations that we get to see later as well. Now there's something over here, an island of sorts with two pointed rock formations coming out, kind of like a crab pinching look, or some sort of just arch maybe, because they do look like they meet at the top. This could be a really interesting area, hopefully, again, that we'll be able to ride out onto that with Pokemon. We see a landmass over this way, but I also want to bring our attention to these trees back here that kind of look like they might be burnt. Like they're not, let me see if I can close up on this actually. You can see a little closer now. They look a little burnt, like maybe something happened over here, some sort of natural fire or something, or a Pokemon's fire did something to the trees, or it could just be the draw distance. Really don't know. But we will find out obviously when the game comes out, or maybe even with some trailers along the way. It's a really interesting idea though, because that means we might have some sort of physics system similar to Breath of the Wild when it comes to elements, because you know how you could burn grass in Breath of the Wild too. I also want to point out this area reminds me a lot. This area reminds me a lot of the iceberg beach area in Sword and Shield's DLC in the Crown Tundra. I don't know why, it just reminds me of that. Now continuing on, we see a bunch of Bidoof in the grass, and let me say this grass looks amazing as well. The flowers, this is unlike anything we've seen in Pokemon until now. You know, Sword and Shield, they didn't have a lot of grass like this. So one thing I want to say is I think Game Freak has learned how to use compression in their coding in order to fit the things into this open world, which is very interesting to me because I've talked about before how they don't know how to use compression in their coding. So if they have been getting the help that they need now that they're moved to Nintendo's office, it looks like they've already taught them how to compress for their system. It makes a lot of sense because Monolith Soft, who are the people behind helping Breath of the Wild be able to achieve its open world, are right there next to Game Freak. So not only does Game Freak have the entirety of Nintendo at their disposal to help them figure out the system and compression like this, but they also have the masters of it, which would be Monolith Soft, to help them put just so much foliage in one shot and on the screen at the same time, along with the Pokemon. These Bidoof models also look new to me. It might just be the art style talking though, that might be all it is. Let's continue on though. Here we see the town, and I want to back it up a little bit because the town has a few things that we can look at here. So I looked at this and was like, what looks different here? And it looks like this one spot right here has a little plaque on it. And I feel like we're definitely going to be able to enter this door. I don't know if we're going to be able to enter all the doors. I'd hope we'd be able to enter all the doors. But I feel like this one's going to be something special. I don't know what it could be yet, but something special nonetheless. Next, I want to look at these lookout towers because one of them has a bell and the other one doesn't have anything in it, so I'm not sure what purpose this leaves for the residents of this little town, this little village, and also what the bell might mean. There might be some sort of survivalist theme going on with this town here. And also, you'll notice we don't see anybody else in this trailer besides the player character. And in the artwork, we saw people walking around all over it. Here, let me show you the artwork just so you know. So right here, we see people all over the town talking to each other. So obviously there might be two NPCs that stay static here. Hopefully not. Hopefully the NPCs don't stay static. Hopefully they live their lives. Hopefully they work just like Majora's Mask NPCs at the very least, because that's already over a decade old system of NPC workage. So we're going to have all these people here in this town, and I can't wait to see it filled out. That's going to be so interesting to me. Nothing about this artwork screams about any of these buildings being important. As you can see, we can't even see the plaque on this here because it cuts off, but it does look like it's supposed to be a bustling town by the end of it, and the whole bell in one tower and nothing in the other thing is confirmed. So maybe something is supposed to go here later. Maybe we have to find another bell. Maybe we need a Pokemon of sorts that goes in here. Maybe this is just where someone's going to be standing. I don't know why they wouldn't have drawn someone in here, though, if that's the case. Who knows? We'll find out soon enough, I'm sure. So as we come back to this shot, I don't think there's anything else to talk about here. We see the path kind of goes off to the left and right either way before the fence. So it looks like there might be more to this town than just this one little path that we're seeing. You'll also notice that there's ladders here, and that means we'll be able, as the player character, to go up there, most likely anyway. I'm still curious. I think we're going to be able to climb stuff later, but I don't think we'll be able to climb all the surfaces like in Breath of the Wild, which is fine. But as long as there's stuff we can climb, then I am very interested. So here's really important. Take a look at this once I press play. Watch, it's going to move. See? Did you notice that? It moved a little bit. I'll back it up just a little bit just in case. Right there. See, like, it's definitely moving. So we're going to see this in several shots as it goes by, and I'm going to talk about it a little more later when we see it more clearly in a shot later. But for now, just keep that in mind. It looks like, first thing I think of when I see it, it looks like that aura that we would see in Breath of the Wild that was the top of that spiritual mountain with the blue peas on it, if you guys remember that, if you played Breath of the Wild. But it also looks like it could be some sort of water of sorts. I want to say a waterfall, but it looks like it's shooting upwards. So maybe a fountain or jets, geysers. Or my personal theory is maybe we can mark things on our overworld map. And when we mark them on the map, maybe they glow like this. And it's pretty big so that anyone can see it. We know that the Pokemon developers, Game Freak, like to make things very simple for younger users. Another thing I want to point out that I forgot to mention before, we don't see the mountain here. We do not see Mount Coronet on this shot. So it doesn't look like the exit to this town is facing towards the center of Sinnoh. Although there could be several entrances and exits. So this might just be one that's pointed away. It might kind of be like Clocktown from Majora's Mask, that you can go in several different directions from the inside. But yeah, Mount Coronet is definitely not here. We would definitely see it if that were the case. Once again, we don't see Mount Coronet here either, so we're still not facing towards the center of Sinnoh. So I would like to wager we're looking at the edge of the map here, possibly. It looks like the mountains cut off here, and these look like really tall mountains that we might not even be able to surmount. Or maybe we will. I would be happy if we could surmount them. The bigger the game is, the better, as well as it runs well. As long as it runs well. But for now, we're definitely not looking towards the center of Sinnoh. So if that helps you look at what the vantage point is as we continue. Also, there's a rock here. I'm going to close up to that, actually. And this rock looks very, I want to say, unnatural. Maybe it was chiseled in such a way. I also would be interested in maybe certain landmasses are going to look like Pokemon, kind of like Sharpedo Bluff from Mystery Dungeon, or maybe some other things. We'll see. There's also a tree here that I see recurring, and we'll take a look at that later as well, because we're going to see it very close up later in the footage. Other than that, this is a path, and I don't see that bridge. Although this might be where that bridge was. No, that bridge was in front of Mount Coronet. So this is definitely a different path that we're seeing through a different river. So here we get a close-up shot of the female character. The detail looks really good. I love this outfit. I saw someone mention that this here is the Team Galactic symbol or some sort of rendition of that. Something with the kanji and the symbolism. We'll also see another symbol here, though, on her chest that I'm very curious what that might be. It kind of looks like a very, very prototypey Pokeball of sorts, because it's got that little circle in the middle, but then up here, it looks kind of rounded out, but then it goes into a diamond shape. but it looks rounded out because of these cuts on the corners here, that if you can see those indents, and it kind of looks like a ball. Maybe there's an outline there that we're just not seeing very well because the footage isn't as high quality as the actual game's going to look on a screen. But yeah, other than that, we'll notice that this character looks like she's dressed for the cold, so it must be pretty cold in Sinnoh, or at least where she's at. This is probably an ancestor, I want to say, of Dawn, and obviously of whoever the male character is. It's probably an ancestor as well for that. But there's also the possibility that some timey-wimey stuff is going on, and we won't know that until we get more details about the game. But for now, it definitely looks like an ancestor. I do also want to point out, I haven't seen anyone mention this, the lack of facial expression on the character's face, or not necessarily the lack of facial expression, but the fact that they don't just have a smile plastered on their face. That, mixed with the somber music that we hear throughout the trailer, gives this certain vibe. Like, it's like an adult vibe, at least compared to what Pokemon's usually like. She looks serious, like she's taking what she's doing seriously, and I like that. I like how adult this whole thing comes off. It looks very good. The character model, the facial expression. Obviously, I hope that they animate facial expressions for certain things, but I'm glad she's not defaulting to just like some plastered on smile for every little thing that happens, because I think that can be kind of ugly, and that's something that looks really stupid in a lot of cutscenes for most Pokemon games. Now, continuing on, doesn't look like there's anything else in that shot. Here's an important one. Okay, so there's several things going on in this. Before we get into this dive roll that's about to happen, here's a bridge. This is that rock we saw before. Bam, look at that. Okay, so that's, oh, here's Mount Coronet back here. All right, so Mount Coronet's to the right of that. All this stuff is to the left of Mount Coronet. So this dive roll that the character just did, this says a lot. This one little action, man, I mean, I was so shocked when I saw this. I didn't expect any sort of maneuverability of the player character at all. But this one action, I think, says a lot. I think it says, and it's telling us as the audience watching this trailer for the first time, that your player character is going to have significant impact on your progression through the game. That's never happened in a Pokemon game before. Your player character has never been a big deal. It's always been just about your Pokemon. But now here, we're seeing the player character take action. So the dodge roll definitely looks like something trying to get away from something, you know? This isn't the kind of animation you animate for someone like Link rolling around Hyrule Field to go faster, right? This is something you see for a character getting out of the way of something. So I have a feeling that your character is going to have a health meter of their own of sorts, and that your player character can actually get damaged in a way, which I find very interesting. When it comes to Pokemon battles later, I'll explain. I think they might even take some sort of Yu-Gi-Oh type approach where eventually your player character starts taking damage instead of your Pokemon. If your Pokemon all faint or something, or if your Pokemon takes excessive damage, who knows? Or maybe collateral damage. We'll see. I mean, the possibilities are endless, but we still don't have many answers, so I don't want to make assumptions. But these are theories that I've had floating around in my head after watching this. Here, though, first of all, great draw distance in comparison to Sword and Shield. Two of them right there, and they just look so much more natural in their habitat to me for some reason. Maybe it's just the art style, I don't know, it actually matches. And we see her try to catch this Pokemon in a ball, and it works. She didn't fight it, nothing. These two weren't fighting, so we know that Shinx is not hers. So, some people have been pointing out, like, I don't want to be able to catch a Pokemon without battling them, and then also, what is the point of battling if you can just catch them in one shot? I don't think you're going to be able to catch every Pokemon in one shot like that. I think the only reason she was able to catch the Shinx is because Shinx is such a weak Pokemon in comparison to a lot of other ones. Say, for instance, the Garchomp we experience later, we're not going to be able to catch them in a soup like that. We're going to have to somehow get their health down with the fight, or maybe deplete it completely and then catch. I don't know how it's going to work exactly. There's definitely a different kind of catching situation going on here from what we've ever seen before. And there we go, we see the success. Now we see a fight, and it's seamless in the overworld. Enough said on that one. I mean, I don't really need to explain much. There is one thing that I am curious about, is that I read somewhere that you can throw your Pokemon out of their Pokeball. That's all you have to do to send them out. And they can start fighting. Ah, yes, that's right. I read it on the official Pokemon Legends website. So you can go there and you can see a little more about the game on that website. And it confirms here that you just throw the Pokemon out near the other Pokemon and a fight will ensue. I find it interesting that your player character is always so close to your Pokemon when you're fighting. And again, maybe that rules out the collateral damage thing that I thought about. I don't know. So we're catching a Rhyhorn here. Oh, that must be the Rhyhorn that they just beat. I think that's the way of telling us that they just beat this Rhyhorn, and that's why they're catching it. So it's somewhere in between this. You put your Riolu back into your team and threw a ball out to catch this. So I guess you do defeat them. It doesn't look like it's moving. Oh, it was moving. I don't know. You either deplete their health some or you defeat them. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Here we see our little Chingling going at like 2 frames a second. And we see some Bronzong, I forget which one's which, in the back here, the pre-evolution one back here. So that's a really impressive draw distance, especially compared to Sword and Shield. Especially with how good these textures are for the bark and the trees and the foliage. Oh my god, it looks so good, guys. I can't. I'm so excited for this game. You have no idea. So there's really not much more to talk about in this shot other than these Pokemon are confirmed and that you can crouch and sort of walk up to them sneakily. We don't see them do anything with this. And these are wild Bidoof, I think. I'm still hoping beyond hope that we are able to take out at least one of our Pokemon out into the field with us. But I'm going to assume this is a wild Bidoof. And it's not running, so I'm assuming they're going to act kind of like they did in Sword and Shield, where some Pokemon might come up to you, which will be interesting. And I'm totally down for that returning in a way. Other than that, we see that geyser-like thing in the back here too, and we also don't see Mount Coronet. But we see lots of rolling hills back here and different kinds of trees. Notice these trees back here are completely different from these here. So we can see these different areas that we're in based on these trees, and a lot of the shots we've seen earlier and some more that we'll see later have completely different kinds of trees, so we know we're in different areas. Again, great work by Game Freak getting all this foliage into the game. I'm very impressed with them. I did not expect Game Freak to be able to put something out like this, but boy, I am so happy they're proving me wrong. I'm assuming they have all of their employees working on this, plus some people from Monolith Soft and Nintendo. Here he goes, more water in the back here, very pretty. We can see now that we're going to have a time of day change, so a day and night cycle, which isn't too surprising nowadays, but you know how they like to get rid of features, and I'm glad to see this one come back. Here we're seeing the Garchomp and the, forget this Pokemon's name, Gallade fighting, and we don't see any UI for this, but we will later, so I'm going to actually just talk about this later. But one thing that's very nice that we've seen several times by now is that the Pokemon run up and attack each other. That's so good. They don't technically run up, they kind of like sweep up, slide up, whatever, but it's so nice seeing them make contact with each other, especially even with the fact that this is our first one that's like seamlessly going into battle. Here we see our player character chasing off a little birdie. You'll see them running away right there. Yeah, running away from you while the other one watches in anticipation. Really cute shot. I don't think there was anything else in that shot we needed to talk about. Except the change of trees again. You'll notice different trees again. So you know we're in different areas. So this is a completely different area from the last one. And also I think that's Mount Coronet there. I could be wrong. That might not be Mount Coronet. That might be a different mountain. But yeah. Oh god, this game looks so good. Again, Chimchar. I think that's its name, Chimchar. Just like going in like 2 frames a second. It looks kind of weird. But we do see some more torches here. I keep going too far back. We do see some more torches there in that shot. And a path up that way that, can I just go back a little bit? Oh, I can go back 5 seconds. Look at that. That's going to be useful. Over here we see another torch, and it looks like just like a rock and some shadows and a path that goes out that way. So this is a huge towering rock that we're right in front of. This could very well be that big landmass rock that I pointed out earlier. We don't know for sure though. Ah, Star Raptor. Oh, this is so cool. Okay. Again, nothing new to point out here other than they actually animated the Pokemon going up to them and actually animated them doing a move, and it's amazing, and you see the impact of it, and it looks like it actually did something. Whew. Oh my goodness. So beautiful. Alright, oh, here's Mount Coronet again. Again, these trees, so you kind of know what area we're in. There's a little Bidoo over, no, yeah, Bidoo right there. And your player trainers. There's really nothing else to this shot that I can point out. We see a Pikachu in the grass over here. It looks like a good Pikachu model as well. And we see this little rock going over the water here, making this archway. It's so pretty. Dang, again, even the male character looks serious walking through here. And now you get a closer look at the tree bark. This texture is so much better, and this I'm pretty sure I've seen this texture ripped straight from Breath of the Wild. I believe I saw it in the near Zora's domain, the marsh area. The marsh area has bark just like this, so I'm pretty sure that's ripped straight from it. I mean, a lot of these textures look like they're ripped straight from it, and again, that's not a bad thing. I think it just signifies how much Nintendo and Monolith Soft are helping Game Freak with this production. Again, the time of day change, we see Turtwig here. And Turtwig, so this will bring up another point. We've seen a lot of starter Pokemon in the wild, which is really nice. I mean, no one's going to complain about that, right? But that is so nice that we see starter Pokemon out in the wild. Okay, and now this tree here, we've seen it several times. Once again, this is a closer look at it. But we're going to be even closer to it later on in this trailer, I believe. So we'll see that when it comes. Other than that, you can see this river flowing right here. Looks really pretty, some beachy-like areas, and some more foliage. It looks like we're seeing mostly just woodland-type areas in this trailer. I'm assuming there's going to be more in different areas of this world. We saw that like beach area earlier with the Piplup with that different style of grass that looked very much like a Japanese drawn style. So I'm curious to see where that ends up falling on the map, and if we're going to see more artistic choices like that sort of grass later on. So here we are closer to these once again, and we can have a closer look at the bell and these ladders that we can climb up, and again, it just doesn't look like there's anything up here. I'm so curious what we're going to use that for. And I just noticed that there's these little lamps. I forgot what these are called exactly, but these Japanese style lamps right here in front of the entrance. Alright, a few important things here. Let me let it rotate more. So first things first that I want to point out, Cyndaquil has his fire. This is a big deal because I don't recall Cyndaquil having his flames. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have his flames in the model that we've been using, unless he used moves before. So I think this confirms that these are different models, or at least that they've done something with their animations this time around. So Cyndaquil has his flames. That's very important. And then also in the back here, you see that sort of Team Galactic referenced symbol, kanji, in the back there, which is important. We see a mirror. We see a bunch of books. And there's actually like a bird perch back there. Someone pointed out that Rowlet was probably up on there, but I also don't know where these two would have been. Hopefully just, you know, had their own little kind of natural habitat type place for that too. Or maybe this office usually has a different kind of bird up here perched, like maybe a Chatot. Maybe whoever's office this is, they have a Chatot as their Pokemon of choice, and it stays up on the perch, which would be really interesting to see that, because that's just another way for the characters and Pokemon to mingle that I'd love to see. There's a plaque here with some writing on it on top of the desk, but there's no way for us to be able to read it, and even if we did, it probably is in that Pokemon language. But I think this implies that, yeah, this is definitely somebody's desk, and it's probably not ours. But it seems like because of this symbol, seems like our character kind of works for this place and is very prideful of this place if they're wearing the symbol. Next thing I'm going to point out is obviously these are different Pokemon from different generations, different starter Pokemon from different generations. And you have Oshawott is the samurai. You have Rowlet is the archer, which kind of goes with the whole feudal Japan thing. And then Cyndaquil, I'm not sure what it, maybe sport like wildlife. I mean, you know, a lot of sort of feudal games have like animals and stuff, so maybe that's just what Cyndaquil represents on his side, because Typhlosion in the end is just a big beast, you know. I doubt it counts as a brawler, so maybe they're counting Typhlosion as a brawler, but I doubt it, because I think Typhlosion specializes in special moves with fire. But yeah, so that's all that is. And now we see them drawn in this pretty style. Again, I'm hoping that when we enter the Pokedex entries, we do so in a notebook and draw them like this, because that'd be really cute. And then we write like a little description underneath that we can read in like ink pen writing. So that would be nice. And that pretty much concludes this trailer. The book here, we see these letters. I mean, if anyone knows how to translate the Pokemon language, if that even is the Pokemon language, this might be something you know, in the lore is older, then that would be really interesting. Also, you can kind of see the little steam pump at the top here of the Pokeball, where steam is supposed to come out when it tries to catch them, which is really interesting. And this buckle, I like all the details in these Pokeballs. I think that's really cool. And I like how they're made of wood because, you know, like I said, spiritual capturing of the Pokemon sounds like a really interesting idea. And now we got to see our glimpse of Arceus. And I totally thought Arceus was pronounced Arceus until this trailer where everyone and their mom pronounced it Arceus. So looks like that's it. It makes sense because it has an arc on it, whatever. But yeah, there's really nothing we can glean from that other than the fact that, yeah, Arceus is going to be a centerpiece of this game's story, which I'm very excited to see because this has been a very elusive Pokemon up until now, and one that I've definitely wanted to know more about, and we just never got the chance to. Alright, so I'm going to skip the whole Ilka Diamond and Pearl remake thing because that's not what we're here to talk about. And I have my thoughts on that, but I'm not going to talk about that now either. So going back in to the world of Pokemon Legends Arceus, when they start showing us footage again, anytime now. They're just explaining about Coronet and all that. The art. Okay, where's the... They mentioned the town's bustling with people. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure we will. And hopefully soon enough. Now that I think about it, these bells here, they probably have something to do with Arceus. Maybe we're missing the one here, and having both of them together would summon Arceus in times of need or something. Maybe that's why this bustling town is all that exists in this world. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Something belongs there, and we're probably going to be the ones to take it there. That's all I'm saying. Yes, Cyndaquil, Oshawott, and Rowlet. I will probably be choosing Oshawott, but Rowlet and Cyndaquil are also two of my favorite starters, so that's really hard. But I'm so partial towards water types, and Oshawott and Piplup are my two favorites. So with Oshawott being here, I think I'm gonna take Oshawott. But Rowlet was really close runner-up because I loved Rowlet, and Rowlet was my starter in the Gen 7 games. Although I also really love the mermaid one. What's her name? I knew it. Primarina. I loved Primarina, but I didn't like the pre-evolution, so I didn't pick them. I picked Rowlet because Rowlet's so fucking cute. But I do like Primarina better than Decidueye. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about, but figured I'll just put my little opinions there. I'm sure you guys have fun either way watching. So now we get a closer look at the symbols on these characters. And okay, this confirms these are not circular in the slightest, but they still look like some sort of prototype design of Pokeball. So I'm curious if that means anything for that. It feels like they're putting a lot more lore into this than they've put in any Pokemon game before. Even more than Gen 2 and even the original Sinnoh games, which had the most lore out of any of the regions, I believe, were Johto and Sinnoh. Alright, so here's the same shot of them running out, but this time with the male character. I don't think anything changed here. We still see all the same things. Here's the geyser again. Just going off over there, doing whatever it's doing. It's a very far draw distance, which is really nice. Alright, they're showing what we've seen before, but they're also about to show us something new, and that is the battle. There is a lot I want to point out here. So we have 4 moves, which is standard for Pokemon. That's important because you would think this would be turn-based combat, but I want to point out that, and I'm going to give a warning right here in case you don't want to hear it. In the leaks, 3, 2, 1, I'll talk about it now. In the leaks, supposedly it's not a turn-based combat system, but it's a kind of real-time time-based system based on the speed of the Pokemon. So say for instance one of these will be faster than the other, and they might be able to attack twice before the other one, and you'll still be able to select the moves, yes, but you also want to select the moves fast enough to move before the other Pokemon. Or maybe they time it in a way that like the timeline stops when you get your turn. I don't see a meter of sorts for that though, so those leaks may or may not actually be real. I mean, it might just be turn-based combat, we don't know. But some other things I want to point out. This looks like it's very late game. I can't get rid of this. But down here you can see Pokeballs here, meaning you can actually have a team in this. I know some people were worried that you could only have 1 Pokemon at a time on your team because they were changing so much. But no, you have a full team of 6 because our player character has that. And this is their Gallade with the stats. And level 70, so that means this is a pretty late game, right? And you'll see up here, Garchomp doesn't have its level listed or anything about it listed, just its gender or its sex and its name and then its health bar. And then you got the Garchomp. So I'm wondering if the Pokemon's levels and power is going to scale with your leveling up as you progress through the game. If it doesn't have its level listed, maybe it's just going to always be assumed to be the same level as the Pokemon you throw out. So that way, you'll always have some sort of difficulty no matter what. I find that very interesting, and I'd be very intrigued to see that, but at the same time, I would also like it to be designed in a way that you could run into a too powerful of a Pokemon for your own good early on in the game, possibly. Maybe the way they do that is just by having a 3rd evolution like this, and then them still being around the same level, I don't know. But the fact that there's no level listed here is very curious to me. But yeah, so these moves are confirmed to be in the game. Take a good look. They're not very flashy moves or anything, but in case you love any of these moves, at least now you know. And that's pretty much all to talk about on here when it comes to this. They have idle animations now! That's... Sorry, I said that like I freaked out so bad, but like... They have idle animations now! They did not have idle animations before. You saw that? Watch. They'll be standing there. They'll be standing there, right? And watch, they're gonna like growl at each other when nothing's happening. Look, he growled. And now the Garchomp growls. Yo! Okay. Once again, we see like it looks like an island out here. It might not be an island, but again, gives me hope for Pokemon being able to ride on Pokemon and swim around using Pokemon. That'd be so nice. Also want to talk about the camera swooping around like this. I wonder if when you send a Pokemon out into battle, it automatically goes into this. You'll notice that your player character is once again next to your Pokemon. But the camera just kind of keeps swooping around. I wonder if this is player-controlled camera, kind of like Dragon Quest XI or something like that, or if this is just gonna be what it's always gonna look like, if the camera's always turning. If the camera moves on its own, I would hope they would go for more dynamic shots than just a circling around. But it would also be nice to be able to control the camera ourselves, in which case I hope there's a lot of camera control, kind of like Breath of the Wild, where you could get really close and really far and like go really far to look up and go really far to look down. Like, I loved that. So I really hope that that sort of camera is in this game. Alright, you see them go up and attack. And the health bar comes down. Nothing else seems to have happened with it. Whew, my throat is getting dry. Alright, this shot here, it makes me nervous, but also excited because take a look at this slope right here as we run. That slope right there. That's a very steep slope, right? And with that steep slope, I'm nervous because I'm scared as the player character we're not going to be able to traverse this slope. In Sword and Shield, you come up to like right about here and you hear the boom, boom, 8-bit sound effect and can't go any further. So I'm really hoping we'll be able to traverse slopes like this. You also see this long river back here, and there's no way they're going to let all that space go wasted. Come on, we got to be able to surf on Pokemon for real now. Come on. I'm really hoping so. I also don't think a bike would work in this sort of primal time period we're supposedly taking place in. So that would be really nice if we had Pokemon out with us and we're able to do things like that. So I'm really hoping for that. Oh wow, was that water? Yeah, I guess it was. So this is, I'm hoping this is not a wild, like, here's a good example. I'm hoping this is not a wild Chingling and that it's the partner Pokemon. Oh, but yes, that dive roll, once again, makes me think that there's some sort of survival thing for your player character as well. That mixed with the crouch, I find it very interesting that the character hides in the grass and not the Pokemon back in these times. It might be because of the time period or something, but that's really cool to me. And here we see it looks like an island. Hopefully it is an island down there again. Here is that big tree that we've been seeing over and over again. And now we're right under it, and it looks like it's later in the day. Really pretty, got torches. And importantly here, we see some pillars right here. Again, it looks like it's ripped straight from Breath of the Wild, but that's not the important part that we're talking about here. What we're talking about is the fact that there are pillars. There was some sort of settlement or building built here before the primal times that this game is taking place in. So that means there must also be even more lore behind this lore with civilizations of past before the civilization we're playing through in this game, which I find very interesting once again. But yeah, and so here's that big tree also. So I'm assuming this tree has some sort of significance, especially when paired with these pillars. Also, these torches also look like they were straight out of Breath of the Wild. More Pokemon fighting, and it looks glorious. Do we see anything from that geyser there? No, but oh, here's the best shot of this geyser we got in this very Breath of the Wild-esque. This looks like the marsh area in Breath of the Wild. But yeah, this very Breath of the Wild-esque shot, which is like a one-to-one treatment of what Breath of the Wild's trailer did too. Look at this geyser, watch. It's just all the more proof that this is something in the beyond that we're looking at. And it looks like the character is actually looking at it. So it must be a point of interest. Maybe it is a marking on the map that we made, or maybe that's something else entirely that we're going to have to go find because the game shows us it. But look, it's moving. I'll show you guys again. Just keep an eye on that geyser as the shot goes. The geyser's moving a lot. A lot. It's moving a lot. And I don't know where it's going. It's going left and right. Something's going crazy over there. And I'm hoping it's a Pokemon doing that. That'd be really cool if a Pokemon is doing something to the environment and we got to go see it. I would love to see just how much the Pokemon have an influence on the environment in this game. I'm really hoping that there's some sort of like physics and story is just tied very deeply to that. Now let's take a look at the leaks, quote unquote. So warning for anyone who does not want to see possible leaks of the game. Now's your warning to go elsewhere, or pause the video and interact in the comments about what you've seen so far. That would be preferred actually. But for now, let's look at this. So Central Pokemon leaks. First, let's talk about this little magazine clippings here. So we got some new shots here. Looks like Lucario fighting a Shinx, and it looks like a map down here. Is this a map? No, it looks like it says A and B. Are these two different commands for different things? Is this the menu right before you choose the moves? Is there another menu before you choose moves in the battle? Also, a lot of people are wondering what Pokemon this is. I honestly have no idea. Kind of looks like one of those legendaries, like Landorus or Thundoris or whatever the fuck they're called. Up here you see more fights, and then you see here again. Here's that menu again. I don't. A and B. So one of these interacts with something, the other does something else. I wonder what it's for, because that's not the move selection. Here's some more screenshots that look like they were used in some sort of either PowerPoint or maybe an article of sorts. And this is the most intriguing to me because it looks like interactivity between the Pokemon and the player. There's also some sort of like, what's this Pokemon's name? Nuzleaf? It looks like a Nuzleaf is climbing this mountain. With a backpack though? I don't understand this. I honestly have no idea what is going on here, but this also gives me hope that we have climbing of sorts. Maybe we put ourselves into the backpack and a Pokemon climbs for us, which would be preferable. That'd be really cool. We also see some menus down here. There's a Pokeball here, but this is, I don't know, I guess that could be the old Pokeball. And it looks like this looks like L is a command for something, and I don't know what this says. And over here we see another menu, and this is the up arrow and the down arrow, I guess on the D-pad, which is also interesting. That means we have some stuff to pull out there. And then this looks like, I'm not sure if that's in-game or if this is part of the article or whatever this was. Very interesting though. I really hope we're able to climb. And this is another one. The player character. This is definitely the player character here. On a deer-like Pokemon. Mounted a deer-like Pokemon. Oh, I can't wait to see. I hope we get to ride some Pokemon. That seems so cool. That would be a fast way to traverse. It would be stylish. It would be genius. Again, we see the menu here and still can't make out. Looks like L and R actually. L, R, X. I thought it was A before, but now it looks like an X. I don't know. There's another thing right here. Oh my goodness. These blurry ass images. They're always blurry. Leaks are always blurry, aren't they? See if we can get a close look here. No, I really can't see. Really can't see it, but this definitely looks like L and R right here, because those look like the shape of the shoulder buttons as well. But yeah, so we'll hopefully be able to fly on Pokemon like this, kind of like instead of using a paraglider, maybe it would be seamless like that. The one thing that gets me about these is that this does not look like Mount Coronet over here. This looks like Death Mountain. So this could be some Photoshop stuff because this has this cloud over it, whereas Mount Coronet has the clouds around it. And this is very unpar for the course from what we've seen. But this one looks promising because this looks like the player character. So I don't know. Time will tell. Guys, please let me know what your thoughts are on all this stuff. I really want to talk about this. I'm so excited for this game. You guys have no idea. Let me know what your thoughts are. What do you think is real? What do you think isn't on those leaks? Do you agree with any of the things that I've made predictions on or inferred based on what we've seen? Do you not? Do you have some stuff that you noticed that I didn't notice? Do you have ideas that look like they might actually be in this based on what you've seen and I just didn't even think about it? Yeah, just let me know all of that. I'm so interested in hearing it. On top of that, if you guys liked this video, please like and subscribe. I know that sounds like something you hear everyone say, but I could really use it. Giving a thumbs up on the video helps the algorithms, and I really want to get myself out there on the algorithms for sure. And then more subscribers. I'm so close to 1K. So once I hit 1K, I'll be able to make community posts, and I'd really love to make community posts. So either way, do as you please, but I would just love it if you could do all that for me. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys are just as excited as I am for this. I'll see you guys later.